Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry, who's back in the saddle for the first NFL Picks episode of the year. He was tied down with work, that thing called a job, unfortunately, the last time we did this. So Tyson's making his debut on this episode, and it's good to have you back, brother.
Yes, I'm ready to be here, man. We got a little bit of birds action. I gotta go old school today. I'm holding the microphone. So if the audio doesn't come through so good, I apologize, but it's user error.
Well, it's looking good right now, and you got a sick background with the wood, so it's very rustic, I think is the
Montana.
term. Yeah, there we go. So, Tyson, normally we wouldn't do this because we'd be recording this either before or at the halftime of the Thursday night football game, but our Eagles were playing and we wanted to watch. And so we're going to give a little Thursday night football reaction before we go into the week 2 preview and then get into our picks and money making time. And before we jump into that, just make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. If you are the 150th subscriber, you're getting sent $50 to Amazon.com. So just keep that in mind. So share the show, whatever the case may be. But stay
Ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Ever heard of Amazon?
So make sure to be subscribed to that. But Tyson, speaking of Amazon, Thursday Night Football and Amazon Prime Video, the Philadelphia Eagles get a victory. They moved to 2-0. But both these victories haven't necessarily been the prettiest, but a win's a win in this league, and they got a win in their home opener.
So this one was funny to me. As soon as the game ended, I was kind of trying to pick up as much like online discourse as I could before we hopped on here just to see what people were feeling. And Elon's locked me out of X because I don't have an account, so I got to like sleuth my way around to figure out how people feel. No Eagles fans are like super thrilled with this win, and everything I was reading from the Vikings side of things was like, man, we got smoked. I know this looks close on the scoreboard, but like it wasn't. To me, it felt like, oh man, Philly might blow this. But I guess to them, it felt like, oh, we have no shot. Which is, it's funny the way the NFL works. Philly didn't look great. Timely turnovers and everything certainly helped to get to 34 points. AJ Brown scores a touchdown that gets called back. AJ Brown probably gets interfered with at the 1-yard line. So those things would have made the offense look a little better. But dude, 34 points or not, the first quarter and the fourth quarter were absolutely horrible. Play calling, situational play calling, catering to a player. And I love the fact that AJ Brown's throwing a fit, man. That's part of the thing that makes you great. And I don't think he's going to go, do sit-ups in his driveway like Terrell Owens or some of these other guys. He wants the ball. But you cannot decide, okay, well, now I'm just going to placate that guy for 4 plays in a row, just force feed him. When the Vikings hadn't stopped the run all night, I think that was, to me, that was like, that should be Brian Johnson's welcome to the NFL moment, because that is unacceptable and that cannot happen if this team wants to get where they ultimately think they should be, which is in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Tyson, I think you're 100% spot on. Like Brian Johnson, that's the biggest question mark surrounding this Eagles football team. Like, yes, look, the Vikings scored a lot of points on the Eagles. That last drive, throw that out. That's garbage time. I think any of those advanced stats will tell you that. This is a team that's forced a lot of turnovers. And yes, did they get lucky? But those are the way it goes. Like, nobody's saying about the Cowboys right now. Everybody's saying, wow, that defense is amazing. So the Eagles do that, and then we're like, well, that's so unlucky, or they're so lucky. I think it goes both ways. Like, the team as a whole was lucky that the defense was able to force those. But once again, this is a team that gets huge amount of pressure on the quarterback, dominates their one-on-one matchup up front, and then if they're able to disrupt the quarterback enough, the secondary is able to win their matchups every once in a while. Now, here's the problem tonight for the Eagles. They face the best receiver in the NFL. Okay, you can live with that. Like, there are some plays that he's going to get open. Like, that's the way it works, especially in this pass-happy league. So I thought the defense to me was a check mark. Very good. We were both texting.
Especially missing James Bradbury, missing Reed Blankenship, missing Nakobe Dean. There was
your 2 green dots.
Yeah.
Your 2 green dots, your signal callers. Dean out and Blankenship out. Okay, so we got to pass it down the line. And Tyson, to me, we talked about this. Desai looks good in his first 2 games as signal caller. Impressive. Like, he's dialing up different things and allowing his guys to eat. But we got to talk about this offense because Brian Johnson looks like he's in over his skis. Like he's buddies with Jalen Hurts, and he just was calling the game like it. Like, let's just let him throw it out there like he's trying to get a Heisman Trophy or something. Like, the running game is working. Why did it take so long for him to figure that out?
And that's Jeff Stoutland's running game. So I'm a little hesitant to even give the credit to Brian Johnson on some of those things. Like, Jeff Stoutland is the offensive line coach in Philadelphia. If you didn't know, he's been the run game coordinator there for a number of years. The architect of, on paper or, in results, so top 5 offensive line for the better part of the last decade. So it's like the passing offense was pretty boring, dude. Like Devontae Smith went off, and he was aided by, 60 yards or whatever, 63 maybe, down the left sideline there, house call. Then that'll help. But Dallas Goedert getting like 26 yards at one point or something like that on like 6 catches. AJ Brown's stat line was it 4 for 22 at one point. These are things that just shouldn't be happening. And I don't know what's up with Hurts. I don't know if he's like banged up or something, but finally got back to dropping some dimes, which was nice to see. But he still looks to me maybe a little hesitant or a little slower, like he's bailing on clean pockets, which is something he did in 2021, and that was something he did not do in 2022. So if you didn't see him much last year, and you were just kind of one of the guys that sat back and were like, well, the Eagles don't play anybody, it doesn't matter. He was the 4th best passer from a clean pocket in 2022, quarterback rating wise. I think it was Tua, Mahomes, and maybe Josh Allen ahead of him. It was Jared Goff ahead of him.
I think Goff, yeah.
And then right behind him was Geno Smith. I know that. But like these are things that were easy last year, and they scored 34 points, Brad, and at no point did it seem like, oh, this is cake, right? Until they started running the fucking football.
Right.
And then it was we're wide open on the deep end. DeAndre Swift had the best running game by a Philadelphia Eagle running back since LaShawn McCoy. Awesome. Not probably going to cut it when you play San Francisco, when you play Dallas. And that's, we're week 2 and it was a short week. So I'm going to still reserve a little bit of judgment for Brian Johnson, because it's really hard to go from your first game ever Sunday looking the way they did against the Patriots and then expecting him to make all these changes going into a short week Thursday. But week 3 is huge. You got a little mini bye. These things have to be cleaned up.
Yes, very well said. And let's be honest. You go from facing Bill Belichick to Brian Flores, who's a really good defensive mind, and he took away the big play. Like I want, like everybody just expects, like, oh, well, it worked last year. Why can't it work this year? Or he did it against that defense last year. Why not this year? Like, you think Brian Flores like getting torched, but his defense getting torched? Like, he's gonna make adjustments. Like, they were dropping like 8 in the coverage at points. So like, throw it underneath, we'll tackle. And so the Eagles had to make adjustments to that, and I thought they did with the running game, and then that ultimately propelled them to the top. As far as the Vikings, Tyson, before we get into week 2 and we put a bow on Thursday Night Football here, is there a possibility? Now, this is a team that was flagged for a major regression, and that's happened so far. Like, they lost the game they shouldn't have against the Bucs, and this one there was major turnovers here, and they couldn't overcome them. Is there a possibility that the Kirk Cousins gets traded to the New York Jets? Because I've seen that being thrown around here. Like, if they go 0-3, because they play the Vikings next week, or not the Vikings, I'm sorry, the 49ers, I believe, next week. If they start off 0-3, is there a possibility he's on the trade block and they get into Caleb Williams or Drake May sweepstakes?
I don't know. I haven't even thought about that. One thing I was thinking about is trying to find somewhere in my state here in Montana that I can bet Kirk Cousins to lead the league in passing, because this Vikings offense sure looks like it misses Dalvin Cook, dude. And I know the interior offensive line and the offensive line in general was bad today, and guys get banged up, and that, like, the defense has been one of the worst in the league for the last 3 years. Like, none of these things in Minnesota are surprising. So I don't know, it'd be tough, because I don't know what the compensation would be, because Kirk is 36 years old, 35. And I believe he's becoming or getting due again to get paid. And I don't know how that's going to work, but Aaron Rodgers took a $30 million pay cut, and what does Kirk Cousins make? Right. So we could work that thing out. Does Kirk Cousins put the Jets back into, a really good position in the AFC? I don't think so. The defense is awesome, and the receivers are really good, and the running game's really good. I've seen Kirk Cousins before with really good receivers, a really good run game, and a really good defense. You know what happened? They get clapped every time they go to the playoffs, every time they play a big game. If I was the Jets, you're certainly making that phone call, because I don't think they want to hand it back over to Zach Wilson. But I know that when Kirk Cousins was a free agent the first time, when he first got to Minnesota, it was between the Vikings and the Jets, and he did not want to play there. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if you just say, all right, thanks for your 7 years of service. We're going to send you back to the same place you chose us over.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see like what those conversations are. Now, 0-2, it's not a death note. 0-3 is, and they don't play the 49ers next. I looked at the schedule wrong. This is who they have. Hosting the Chargers next week, at the Panthers, hosting the Chiefs, at the Bears in the divisional game, and then hosting the 49ers before then going to the Green Bay Packers. So there's some tough games in there. Like they can get off to a bad start, and then we may have a different conversation surrounding where this Minnesota Vikings team is and moving forward this season. But Tyson, that's going to do it for Thursday Night Football. Normally we don't do that. We just jump into the week 2 preview. So let's do that now. And what we're going to do, we're just going to run through every single game real quick. Just give some thoughts like I did last week, just about what we're looking forward to, anything that jumps out to each of us, Tyson, before we get into Money Making Time, where we'll hand out some of the rest of our bets that we like on the slate. So let's start here. Packers at Falcons. Now, what's interesting here is the Packers opened as favorites. It's flipped to the Atlanta Falcons. Aaron Jones is probably missing this game. That's why there's been that movement, which I think is a huge loss. I'm looking forward to seeing if the Falcons offense looks any better through the air, because Desmond Ridder looked horrible. Arthur Smith looked like he had no interest in throwing. And if that's the case, might as well go coach Navy.
I don't know about this Navy. I don't know. But I expect this game to be fairly classic Atlanta Falcons. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be muddy. Jordan Love was, he's above average, I thought, for the majority of his start in week 1. There were still some moments, but like in your second career start, you expect those things certainly. But to me, if Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara switch places or switch levels of fame, this dude would be getting talked about in a completely different light. And if he's not ready to go, he is the offense. And Christian Watson's not practicing as well. So then it's Romeo Doubs again, and a really good week 1 against the Bears. Like, it's different. You can cross up Eddie Jackson these days in the end zone. You're not crossing up Jesse Bates. So that's going to be a tougher assignment for them. It's going to be a short game. My first prediction of the week is this is the first game to end, because these two are going to run the shit out of the football.
Yeah, probably, especially if A.J. Dillon's not churning and burning like he's shown he hasn't been. So
He hasn't in 4 years, dude. I'm getting sick of it.
Bears at Bucs for our next preview here. Now, Bucs coming off a huge away win when they beat the Minnesota Vikings, and the Bears embarrassing. Did you hear the owner already had a closed door meeting with the GM Ryan Poles and Coach Eberflus saying he's not happy? Like, I'm sorry, what did you expect? Like, you were just had the first overall pick. Yeah, I guess. I guess. Yeah. He was the one who put the tickets on Fields MVP. I got to see what happens out of this. Like, does that even light a fire in this? Like, it's week 1. Talk about overreaction. So I want to see what the Bears look like coming out of apparently some hot seat action in their own from their ownership group after 1 week.
Well, dude, I can't do it anymore. Like, DJ Moore was in quarterback purgatory in Carolina. Now he's in QB hell. Like, I don't know. What are we watching? Like, Justin Fields, hopefully by the end of the season, will look better. But to me, that Chicago Bears team really look like they're going to be picking at the top of the draft again. And maybe they go get Marvin Harrison Jr. because it sounds like there's some Fields believers in the building, which is fine. But we're not them.
Well, go get Drake May. I'll give you some free advice, Bears. Actually get a real quarterback who can find your weapons. Seahawks at Lions. I'm excited for this one. Are the Seahawks as bad as we thought? Now, they're missing 2 offensive tackles, Tyson. That is going to be huge, especially, Aiden Hutchinson looks legit. Like, he's a game wrecker. And then the Lions, can they build off of what they did when they upset Kansas City on the road, or are they going to be a classic Lions team and fall flat? This is what maybe one of my favorite. This might be the game I'm paying attention to most in the 1 o'clock slate, and that's saying a lot.
The thing I'm most hyped up for in this game, to give you a little insight to my sicko brain, I want to watch Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner cover Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. That I think is going to be a really, really good test for him early in his career to see, is this guy as good as we think? Because David Montgomery had a really good game on Thursday. There was a different level of juice when Jahmyr Gibbs got the football.
Yep, absolutely. Raiders at Bills, the 1-0 Raiders versus the 0-1 Bills. Who would have thought we would even be uttering those words? But mainly, I want to see how Josh Allen looks. Like, he owned his mistakes. He owned his performance in the press conference. And that's what you want from your leader. Like, he knows he screwed up. He didn't shy away from it. But the thing is, talk is cheap. We got to see the action, right? Like we have to see if he's learned from those mistakes. You can't just be a gunslinger. You can't just force it when you don't need to. And then can you just avoid taking hits? Like, my God, unnecessary hits? Like, we get it. You have the Superman cape, but at some point, there's some kryptonite around the corner.
Look, dude, I've heard Josh Allen have owned those same mistakes now since he came in the league, and he just continues to make them. And I love Josh Allen. Like, I love watching the dude play. I think he's electric. But at a certain point, it's just like either stop doing it or quit apologizing. Because if this is who you are, then own the fact that this is who you are, and I want to play fuck it, chuck it football and throw that thing 60 yards down the field. Stephon Diggs is awesome. Where is Gabe Davis? Does he only get targeted when it's 30-yard throws? Like, why can't this guy be schemed on a 10-yard comeback? Because in 2-minute drills, that's what they like to run, and he's open and he catches the ball, and then it disappears for 40 minutes in the game.
Yep, that's the reality of the situation there. Bills, huge favorites, -8.5 in a bounce back spot at home. Chargers, 3-point favorites on the road against the Tennessee Titans, who were in a dogfight last week against the Saints, and the Chargers lost probably the best game of week 1 against the Miami Dolphins. For me, I think this is a test of manhood for the Chargers. Like, we know what the Titans are going to do. They're going to try to run it down your throat, be physical, try to push you around. Are the Chargers up to that task? Or are they just another finesse team, and it's a classic Chargers team that's going to show up and be soft and just wilt away and start the season off 0-2?
And on the flip side of that, is this just who Ryan Tannehill is now, or was week 1 a bit of an anomaly? DeAndre Hopkins probably isn't going to play, is what it sounds like at this moment. We're recording Thursday night, obviously, so things could change, but he hasn't practiced the last couple of days. And if he's not playing, then it's Chigakonkwo and Treylon Burks, Kyle Phillips. And the way Tannehill looked in week 1, you're going to need prime Randy Moss and Jerry Rice walking through those doors.
Ravens at Bengals in a huge divisional matchup. Ravens did not look good in their victory over the Texans, at least offensively. And the Bengals, I mean, you want to talk about a bad offense. My goodness, 3 points on the road against the Browns, which has been a house of horrors for them lately. But Bengals 3-point favorites at home. It's come down off the 3.5. Listen, I think it's obvious here. Like, this is what I want to watch. How do the Ravens look offensively? J.K. Dobbins is out. The offensive line is banged up. But is it going to be something like everybody was hailing when they hired Todd Monken? And then for the Bengals, can they get the ball and look like they have some rhythm to them? Like, are they going to show up and perform on offense? I think they will, but I want to see if they can do it.
Bold prediction is that T. Higgins will have more catches than he did last week. That's how I feel. I mean, 82 yards for Joe Burrow. I think this is I don't know, because I was thinking about this today. This is an aside, but you can't overreact to week 1. You can't overreact to week 1 because we have preconceived notions in our head about what we thought before the season. So maybe it's not overreacting. Maybe it's just reacting to what the information that we were presented with, because things change in the NFL. And I'm not saying the Bengals are a bad offense, but I'm saying maybe we misread the situation. And I know they started slow last year, and obviously that worked out just fine for them. They were a penalty away basically from going back to the Super Bowl. But it's going to be tough, man. And does Baltimore, do they look any different on offense? Because if it's just the Zay Flowers show, I'm not interested in playing this team to go further than probably the divisional round.
Colts at Texans in another divisional matchup. Both teams 0-1. Texans, Tyson, they opened as a favorite and flipped to the Colts. Now, Texans are back to -1.5 point favorites here. Some big movement on the Houston Texans, which was surprising to me. This defense looked actually good against the Ravens. Like, DeMeco Ryans already has this unit flying around full of young people. Jalen Petre's awesome. Derek Stingley, he got burnt a little bit here and there, but he's going to be a really good player, I think. And then Will Anderson. Remember when everybody was chastising this organization for trading up? I just want to let you guys know, also, they didn't trade up for Will Anderson. They traded up for C.J. Stroud. Like I know what it says on the paper. That's not what actually happened. So I hate hearing that. But Will Anderson looks like he's going to be a better player than C.J. Stroud. Tyson, I need to see if C.J. Stroud can actually play, because this is a Colts secondary who got absolutely shredded up last week by Trevor Lawrence. If they have any hope of turning this franchise around, they're going to need to see some growth from C.J. Stroud against a leaky Colts secondary.
and I'm not going to put it in money making time, but Nico Collins is going to score a touchdown this week. That is the wide receiver 1 in Houston, and I don't really care what anybody else has to say. He's just better than everyone else. The Colts looked better than the Texans to me last week, but neither one of them looked as bad as we probably thought they were going to. And then the fourth quarters happened in both games where it was like, oh yeah, those are those teams.
Chiefs at Jags in a rematch of a playoff game last season. Chiefs opened at 3. Now it's up to 3.5 because, like you said on our previous podcast, Chris Jones is signed and he's back. Travis Kelce's been practicing. I think that may be a little bit of safety net there with that hook by the books in case Travis Kelce goes. I got to see what this offense looks like for Kansas City. Travis Kelce or not, because even if Kelce comes back, he's not going to be full go. Like, there's going to be a lot of responsibilities put on the plate of these wide receivers. How do they respond to last week when they were really bad? And then the Jags. Are you going to be able to stand up to this test? Like, this is going to be a rocking environment. They got to get up for this one.
This one's going to be electric. It's going to be really fun. The Chiefs may be the most mentally strong team in the NFL over the last couple of seasons. Obviously, a lot of wins that certainly helps. But Kadarius Toney, it might be the weakest mental person in the NFL. And so if he keeps dropping the ball, dude, I'm serious. Like, at what point does that just kind of snowball? And then this dude, I like watching him play, but holy shit, man, you're dropping 10% of the passes you've ever been thrown in the NFL. That has to change because they can't. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to bring in Rashee Rice in his second game ever and just make him the focal point of the offense when it's not Travis Kelce? You can't do that.
49ers at Rams in a big matchup here. I mean, 49ers looked like the best team in football when they dismantled the Steelers on the road. And then the Rams had a huge road upset over the Seahawks when everybody was already taking this team out for the past year and putting them down. I mean, Matt Stafford looked absolutely vintage. Aaron Donald was a game wrecker. I got to see if this is a legitimate Rams team who's going to fight early in the season and actually grows into this thing, or if that was just a fluky game against the Seahawks and now all of a sudden reality hits and they actually have to face a real team in the 49ers.
And it sucks that Puka Nacua is already banged up and missing practice because, the pass catchers on the Rams are not good. Like, at this moment, it's Tutu Atwell and it's Van Jefferson and it's a bunch of sorry, that was I told you, Mijo. But it's a bunch of guys that sound like basically more like a law firm than an NFL wide receiver. And I don't know if San Francisco is going to be like the benchmark to see how good this Rams team is because they're just ridiculously loaded. The Rams are a little banged up, and it's going to be physical. But San Francisco seems built for that.
Giants at Cardinals. Giants getting embarrassed on Monday Night Football. It was. No, Sunday Night Football. Jeez, I got my days already mixed up. Sunday Night Football getting embarrassed by the Cowboys, not scoring a single point, losing 40-0. And the Cardinals actually gave the Washington Commanders a scare. And now New York's got to go travel to Arizona. I don't think there's going to be much trouble here, but I need to see what this Giants offense looks like because it was anemic against a really good defense. And the Cowboys, Andrew Thomas, their best offensive tackle, is going to be out of this game, I believe, just based on reports. So can they hold up against the Cardinals team that, gave the Commanders a scare last week, but still aren't very good?
Look, and we are not Jonathan Gannon fans here on this podcast, but if anybody owned Daniel Jones in his time in Philadelphia, it was Jonathan Gannon. I mean, just absolutely dominated Daniel Jones in the Giants offense. Obviously a drop down in probably overall skill level, but Zaven Collins can really play. And I think that's going to be a huge boost for them because the Giants aren't beating anybody over the top. Doesn't matter. So it's going to be a lot of dink and dunk stuff. I think Saquon gets right, and I think that the Giants win this game. But, dude, they might suck.
They might.
Like, this might just be the easiest under of the week.
Jets at Cowboys. Zach Wilson's going to be making a start. That offensive line that looked extremely leaky now has to go against this Cowboys unit who just wrecked the game against the New York Giants. So they get to go for a little New York special here in the Dallas Cowboys at home. 9.5-point favorites here at home. Two of the best defenses in the league. This is what I want to see. Can the Cowboys offense, we didn't get to see a lot of them against the Giants. What can they do against the real unit in the New York Jets? I want to see how they look because it's a new look offense, right? Like no more Kellen Moore, like Mike McCarthy's calling plays. What does that look like against the substantial unit that New York's going to throw at them?
And is this Jets defense good enough to just keep games close no matter what? Because I don't have any illusions that the passing game at least isn't going to be very good for New York. They were running the shit out of the ball, which was not on my bingo card with that offensive line. But Brees Hall is special, and that'll certainly help. But Dallas looks like a fucking wagon, and so 9.5 feels simultaneously too low, and also it is still the NFL, so it feels like a giant number.
Commanders at Broncos. Broncos 3.5-point home favorites. Washington getting back on the road to face the Broncos. Sean Payton's owned the Jack Del Rio defenses in his career. Can he do it with this group of guys? A Broncos team that desperately needs Jerry Jeudy to take the game or, to stretch the field because they just had no playmakers at all. Like everything was so congested. But if Jeudy does play, how limited is he going to be? What is his effectiveness going to be in this game where he's likely going to be on a snap count? So that's what I want to pay attention to. Honestly, last week, Russell Wilson wasn't bad. Like he wasn't the reason why they lost that game. So I want to see what this offense looks like against a defense that Sean Payton has historically owned.
Well, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't good. I expect more work for Javonte Williams. I just think this is the Sean Payton running back, and so I think that's going to be a lot of it. I think P. Ryan's going to eat more into his touches than fantasy players would probably be comfortable with or be happy with. But for real life NFL, I think it's going to work out pretty well. I was not impressed at all with Washington in week 1. And again, it's because of the preconceived notion I had about the Arizona Cardinals. But Sam Howell looked a lot closer to the guy that slid all the way to the back half of the draft than he did the guy that we were talking about. Like maybe Sam Howell could win the division because this offense, like what Terry McLaurin have, 25 yards, like 2 catches. It was not an impressive showing for Eric Bieniemy in his first stint outside Andy Reid.
And we said that offensive line was going to be a problem, and it was against a Cardinals unit. Oh, man, the Broncos could just eat them up. Yeah, it was bad. Sunday Night Football, Dolphins at Patriots, the darlings of the NFL now. The Dolphins and their high-powered offense facing the New England Patriots and a team that everybody's down on. This is going to be a matchup for the ages. Mike McDaniel's offense versus the Bill Belichick defense. I can't wait to see what they do to combat this. Now, last week, the Chargers couldn't get after the passer at all. Like, they couldn't rush Tua at all. The Patriots will be able to. I think that's going to be a huge factor in this game and something I'm paying attention to.
It's going to be fun because Bill Belichick looked like he was having more fun calling defensive plays and getting things schemed up than he has in a minute in week 1 against Philly. But the flip side is who's kind of always dominated Bill Belichick, more so than any other receiver in the NFL. Like Tyreek Hill gets what he wants when he plays anybody, really. But you go into these games, you're like, Bill's going to take away the best player, and he just really hasn't been able to do that to Tyreek Hill. Are the Dolphins for real? Because this defense is going to make you think. It's going to make Tua have to look at things differently than he had to against Brandon Staley, than he's had to at any point in his career, because these dudes, they're out for blood, man, on that defensive line. And the entire front seven is just so much better than people are giving them credit for right now.
Our first of our Monday Night Football doubleheader, Saints at
Why
Panthers.
week 2?
I have no clue, dude. Like, this is crazy. Apparently, this isn't going to be the only time either. And also, Tyson, they're only separated by 1 hour. So, like, they're both going to be going at the same time.
Dude, it pisses me off so much. Like, is Scott Hansen going to run Red Zone for Monday night? Like, what are we doing?
I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me. I have no clue why this is the case here. But the Saints are 3-point favorites on the road at the Carolina Panthers, who did not look very good last week. They were super banged up. I think J.C. Horn is slated to miss this game as well already. And so that's a bad sign. But the Saints offensive line was not good. Like, are the Panthers going to be able to get pressure? Like, I want to see what this battle in the trenches look like, because if Derek Carr's running around for his life like he was last week, it's going to be a long season for the New Orleans Saints.
I think that the Saints are going to be able to run the ball on this Panthers front seven. They're just not they're built to get out to the passer. They're not necessarily built to stop the run. That's been evident for a year now. It was super evident in week one. The Falcons kind of did whatever they wanted running the football. Is Kendre Miller going to play? Is he going to be a factor? What does Jamal Williams look like? So those things are going to be fun. But this just seems like a lot of respect for a Carolina Panthers team that was, showed me nothing in week one.
Browns at Steelers to wrap things up here on our week 2 preview. The Browns looked good defensively. I mean, they just shut out that offense that the Bengals threw at them. Offensively, still much to be desired. Like Watson, there were some bad spots there. And Nick Chubb looked good like he always does, just couldn't find the end zone. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers coming off just an embarrassing performance against the 49ers where they were completely outclassed. They have a chance to make a statement here against the Cleveland Browns that everybody's really starting to fall in love with right now.
Is this offense half as good as people thought they were going to be? That's the question for Pittsburgh. It's tough. Deontay Johnson is going to miss this game. And then, you're really relying on George Pickens. You're really relying on Kenny Pickett to be able to spread the ball and throw it to, Calvin Austin and these guys, Pat Freiermuth. But, I mean, dude, if they go 0-2, it's closer to, Mike Tomlin might go under 500. Because if this offense looks bad again, Matt Canada needs to lose his job. The Steelers don't do that in the middle of the season. They just won't.
Yeah. Well, we said that last year when they were 1-5, and then next thing you know, they rattled it off and just buried us. That was crazy. I couldn't believe what we were watching. Okay, Tyson, that's it for our week 2 preview. Let's get into Money Making Time. And just if you guys didn't watch our earlier episode, we're going to remind you, this is what we have on the docket right now already in the bet slip. Tyson, he took the Atlanta Falcons when they were 1.5-point dogs. So he's got about 2 points of CLV on there. So a little good closing line value for him on that front. I had the Giants minus 4.5. That got up to 6 at one point, and then the injury news chopped that back down. And Tyson also likes the Chargers minus 3. He's losing a bit of juice on that, as actually it's flipped the other way towards the Titans, but still the same number here. So we're going to go through everything and give you our plays that we like now. Tyson, I will pass it over to you. I think I have a few more than you, but I'll let you start it off.
Yeah, I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna go over 40, the flat number here for the Saints and the Panthers. Not in love with this number, but I do think that both defenses leave a little bit to be desired. I think the Saints are going to be able to get after Bryce Young a little bit, and there might be a defensive touchdown. Raheem Shaheed is one of the better, most electric guys in the league. There might be a partner, a kick that gets brought back here, but I really think that the Saints are going to be able to do mostly whatever they want on offense. I think Chris Olave is a lot closer to Garrett Wilson than for some – what happened? At what point did Garrett Wilson become the higher drafted player, the more revered player in the NFL that's put up worse numbers at every stop? They played together, man. That's what's confusing to me.
It's because he's in New York, dude. You know how the New York media does it.
Look, and Garrett Wilson's awesome, but Chris Olave is at least in the same class. Right now, those two are lapping Drake London to start their careers, which is something that we would not have said a year and a half ago.
My first pick is going to be Lions team total over 26.5. That's minus 110 on FanDuel. I think there's going to be a lot of possessions in this game. This was extremely high scoring last year in Seattle. Now the Lions have had extended time off, more time for Ben Johnson to craft a game plan against a defense that he saw last year. And this time it's at home in the dome on their turf, which is a place that they score a lot of points. The Seahawks defense just got carved up by Matthew Stafford and a bunch of guys with name tags because they don't know each other's names. I think the Lions are going to be able to run the Seahawks out of the gym. And if they may have a lot more possessions to work with because their defense gets a lot more stops as well this year based on the lack of offensive line continuity in Seattle right now. So I like Lions team total over 26.5. Tyson, what is your next play?
I have the under 40.5 in the Bears and Bucs game. I just think these two offenses stink. And I know the Buccaneers came out and won. To me, that was more so the Vikings are who we thought they were than it was, Tampa Bay might be a good football team. And we don't need to continue to go in on the Bears. This offense stinks. So at 40.5 points, if this is 28-14, I will eat my hat. But it feels like this is at most, the winning team is going to score 24 points.
That is interesting. I can see that too. Just a lot of runs, the clock's always moving. That
the Bears,
I can definitely see that.
Bucs can't run, so it's going to be interesting.
I hate doing this. I'm taking Broncos minus 3.5. And mainly it's just because of the hook here. Like I normally just hate laying the hook, Tyson. Like, I hate that. It's just such a key number. But we laid it last week with the Falcons and it worked out, although it was super sweaty until the end. But the Broncos, I think 2 points of home field advantage here. Like, are the Denver Broncos really only 1.5 points better than the Washington Commanders with that offensive line and the second-year quarterback? I don't know. And especially against this defense, like, I don't know. So I'm going to take the Broncos minus 3.5. Plus, they're extremely good at home in September based on altitude. Commanders have to go travel to them. This is a defense that Sean Payton's had success with and against. I think they get Jerry Jeudy back. Javonte Williams got his first run. Broncos minus 3.5 is the play for me, even with the hook here.
The next one I have here, Brad, I have Justice Hill anytime touchdown scorer in that Ravens-Bengals game. It's sitting at plus 260 right now. It looked to me that after J.K. Dobbins went down, and it didn't just look to me, I mean, the stats reflected this too, he was the one they chose to run the ball at the goal line over Gus Edwards. He was the one in these mesh concepts with Lamar Jackson. I think that probably continues because he didn't show you anything to make you think that he cannot handle that load. And if you're like a Justice Hill truther, it's finally your time, right? You've been waiting for so long for this dude to pop off. But at plus 260, I think this is a pretty strong play for me.
I'm taking Patriots plus 3.
Your
getting the field goal here. Well, here's the thing. I think they're going to wreck that offensive line with this defensive front. I think it's going to be extremely hard here for the Dolphins to have continuity like they did last week. I think they're really going to be able to stress what that offense is able to do. And on the flip side, this isn't the Patriots offense from last year. Like, they have a big boy coordinator in Bill O'Brien. We saw what they were able to do against a very good Eagles defense. And this Dolphins defense, like, everybody's like, Fangio's there. It's going to be good. It's not good in the first year, guys. Like, stop. Like, can we go back and look and do some research? Like, it takes some time to get accustomed to what he wants to run. And so, especially in week 2, without a guy like Jalen Ramsey there, I like the Patriots here. I would not be shocked if the Patriots won this game outright, but I'm going to take the field goal. And so if the Dolphins are who we think they are, which is a really good team, and they kick a field goal or win, screw it, we'll push. But I like the Patriots plus 3 here.
So my last one here, Brad, and I'll walk you through my thought process. So in the Chiefs Jaguars game, how many touchdowns do you think the Chiefs need to score to win?
I think they need to score at least 4.
And are they going to run the ball on the goal line?
They should, but they probably won't.
They won't. And Pat Mahomes' passing touchdown number right now is 2.5 at plus 124 for the over. I think ideally you would want to be able to parlay that maybe with the Travis Kelce touchdown, because at minus 145, dude, I know he's a beast, but this is the NFL. Like, it's way harder to get in the end zone week over week. But look, dude, it's Pat Mahomes. It's a playoff matchup that we saw already. It's probably going to happen again this season if they end up on each other's sides. And I think that I'm more comfortable with him throwing 3 touchdowns than I am with him throwing 300 yards. It's plus 124.
Oh, plus 124. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Kelce touchdown's minus 145.
My fault there. Plus 124. Wow. All right, so there you go. Tyson's always looking for the juice here, so he's got you. Over 2.5 TDs for Patrick Mahomes, plus 124. That's an interesting play, and something, especially after last week, that I think you may be chomping at the bit to do. So that I like that. Tyson, you know where I'm going, man. I got this play, and I got my play of the week. I'm doing my normal thing, man. I'm doing the teaser. I love it. The 6-point teaser here. And I'm actually taking the Bears up to plus 8.5 here on the road against a Bucs team that I'm not quite sure how good that offense is. But again, against that Bears high school defense, like maybe Baker Mayfield looks like Joe Montana. I'm not sure. But I'm getting the Bills. I'm pairing that with the Bills down to minus 2.5 as well. So Bears are 2.5, get taken up to 8.5 over that key number of 7, and then the Bills under the key number of 3, minus 2.5. That's minus 134 here on FanDuel. So I like that. I think the Bears may keep it close. And Tyson, we think it's a low-scoring game, and I'm going to get above a touchdown. I'm taking that all day of the week here on a game that they're probably going to be running the ball a lot if you're Chicago. And then the Bucs, I mean, that offense still I have question marks about. And then the Bills, they're not losing this game. Like they're not. Like, not at home. Not against this Raiders team. Well, the Raiders defense isn't what the Jets defense is. So I like this minus 134, my classic teaser. What's your what was one of those plays your play of the week, Tyson?
Yeah, my play of the week is that Justice Hill touchdown
Okay,
at
cool.
plus 260. I mean, if we're gonna go for pals, baby, we're going big. And I think I know where you're going for your play of the week, but I'm gonna let you throw it out there.
Yeah, I can't believe we're still getting this number here. And it wasn't, and I was telling you, gosh, I may have to play it with the hook, but we don't have to anymore. Bengals -3, minus 118 play of the week. The Bengals have just owned this Ravens defense in recent years. This is such a good matchup for the wide receivers that the Bengals can throw out there. No Marcus Peters there anymore either. Like this, it's just a banged up secondary. I think the Bengals are going to look right. I think they're going to be able to get after the passer and force Lamar Jackson into some throws that he's not comfortable with based on the offensive line that's banged up. So give me Bengals -3, 2 units for me here. I'm saying it on the podcast. Everything we're saying is 1. This is a play of the week. This is 2 units for me. Love the Bengals in this spot.
And Brad has a unit price of $15,000.
God, I wish. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our week 2 preview and best bets episode, Tyson. Other plays that come up, like I got a couple I'm eyeing. I'm not going to lie here, but I haven't pulled the trigger on anything yet. Where can they find those in the meantime?
They'll be in the Chalkboard app store, Google Play, wherever you download your apps. Group name in that app in the Chalkboard is ISWIS. I said what I said. Presents the Roundtable Bets. It's free. We'll let you write in. And I think an underrated part of what we have going on in there right now is like it's football season, so we're gonna put down some wild 8-leg parlays for $3, $5, and just see if we can't win $1,000. And those are just fun because maybe you don't really want to play anything outright, and you just kind of want to scratch an itch for the price of a cup of coffee. I mean, we're throwing them down. You throw yours down in there too, we'll tail. So it's fun. Golf is back, right? I mean, whatever you can think of is in there. We're playing it, but it's week 2, man. We got to start figuring out, what the season's going to look like. And if we're early, it's better.
Like, subscribe, and share the show. In the meantime, like I said off the jump, if you are the 150th subscriber on our YouTube page, you're going to get $50 to Amazon. So tell your buddies to subscribe. Let's get this number up. And then if you were liking this episode, if you're liking any of the stuff we're doing, college football, other NFL stuff, smash that like button because it helps us become more discoverable. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, whether it's Apple, Spotify, whatever it may be, any 5-star rating helps us out a ton and helps us climb the charts as well. And we do appreciate any support that you guys give us. And shout out to you for listening. We sincerely do appreciate it. In the meantime, stay connected with us. X, Instagram, Twitter, or X, Instagram, TikTok. It's all the same at ISWIS_pod. You can contact us there if you have any questions about gambling stuff, or if you want to vent about anything, you know where to find us. You can give us a holler there. Tyson, that's going to do it for this week. Everybody enjoy their weekend of football, whether you're a college fan, NFL fan. We're going to be back next week reacting to what we saw across the NFL and then diving into a big college football slate. So stay tuned for that. Everybody enjoy your weekend. We will talk to you all soon. Peace.